Hello everyone and welcome to week 8 of Health 402. We are in the final few weeks here of the quarter, so we're almost at the end. This week we're going to be covering statistical analysis for research studies. I know this is everyone's favorite topic. The good news is a lot of this is review. You've learned about these different statistical analyses that exist in your previous classes. You've covered them in your statistics classes. You've also we also did cover these in Health 318. So again, a lot of this will be a review, but you are going to get a chance to practice a little bit in your lab specifically this week. So this week you have to complete the module, and you also should read chapters 14 and 15 of your textbook. You've also got discussion number 8 with your initial post due on Thursday, your reply by Sunday. You're also going to complete quiz number 8 by Sunday. Make sure to complete the module and the reading before you do that. We are returning to our normal labs this week. So we have lab on Monday as well as Friday. And then I want to remind you all to work on your research proposal that is due at the end of the quarter. So for your lab this week, we're actually going to be practicing conducting statistical analysis. And so for your lab, you are going to need to use SPSS, which is a statistical analysis software. If you click on the week 8 lab, it will take you to the lab page, and there are instructions here on how to do that. If you want to bring your own laptop in, which I know most of you do for those labs, you can go to the Cal Poly software downloads. If you click this link here, it will take you there. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. If you don't want to do that and you want to sign up for a free trial of SPSS, you can do that too, but you definitely don't need to. And there's also the Cal Poly virtual computer labs. So let me show you this real quick. So if you click on this Cal Poly's software downloads, it will take you to this page here. And what you want to do here is click on this download software link. When you click that, it might ask you to sign in using your Cal Poly credentials. You'll need to do that. But once you get into the software hub, you can search for what you want to download. So I'll put in SPSS and I will search, and you'll see that comes up here. If you click that, you can either use this virtual computer labs where basically you're using an internet connection to use the software. You're not actually downloading the software. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Just if you have any internet connection issues, it's going to be a problem. But to download the actual software to your computer, you can click this and then you can just select one of these to download. Your discussion for this week is going to focus on coming up with a statistical analysis for your research proposal. So your initial post is due on Thursday and your reply is due Sunday. So in terms of your initial post, I want you to think about your research proposal and think about your hypothesis, think about what statistical analysis you're going to use. For the initial post, the first thing you want to do is write out your research question for your research proposal. Then provide a hypothesis, or this says in parentheses hypotheses, that you could use for your research proposal. A lot of you will have one, but some of you might have more than one hypothesis. So here's an example. Let's say that my research question is, how are perceived barriers and susceptibility associated with flu vaccine uptake? My hypothesis might be individuals with higher perceived susceptibility and lower perceived barriers will be more likely to get the flu vaccine. Notice that there is a direction in there. You cannot say for your hypothesis that perceived barriers and susceptibility will be associated with flu vaccine uptake. That is not an adequate hypothesis. It needs to be specific, and it needs to be very direct in terms of the direction that you expect the relationship of those variables to take, just like the example I provided. Now, that example had just one hypothesis, but some of you will need more than one hypothesis. So let's say that my research question is, what sociodemographic factors are associated with COVID vaccine uptake? Those sociodemographic factors are going to depend on which ones you're specifically looking at. So let's say for sociodemographics, I'm going to say let's say gender, and then let's say I'm going to look also at income, and let's say employment, for example. So those are 3 variables I'm using to represent sociodemographic factors. And so I would need a hypothesis for each one. So I would say maybe I hypothesize that females are going to be more likely to get the COVID-19 vaccine compared to males. Individuals with higher income are going to be more likely to get the COVID-19 vaccine compared to those with lower income. And maybe individuals who are employed are going to be more likely to get the COVID-19 vaccine compared to those who are unemployed. So think about your research question, and again, that will inform how many hypotheses you need, and make sure that you're specific in your actual hypothesis and you're not just saying that there's an association. If you just say that there's an association, you won't be able to receive credit for that. So once you've got that hypothesis or hypotheses figured out, then in part 3 of your initial post, I want you to think about and propose a statistical analysis that you can run in order to answer that research question. So think about your data that you'll be collecting in terms of why you are choosing a statistical analysis. So you can't just say, I'm going to run descriptive statistics. You have to be really, really clear about what specific tests you're using. So if you're using a t-test, then you would want to say you're using a t-test. You can't just say that I'm going to run inferential statistics, for example. Think about the variables that you're going to be using. There's a lot of information in your module about how to select a statistical test, but you want to think about the type of data that you have. So for your post, you need to clearly state a statistical analysis that you're going to run to answer your research question and explain why you're choosing that analysis. Clearly state the test you're using, the dependent variable, your independent variable or variables, and control variables. You should also specify if your dependent variable is nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio data, because that will definitely determine what statistical test you choose. So let's say, for example, I am looking at a research question that looks at the relationship between perceived barriers and susceptibility and the association with flu vaccine uptake. In that question, flu vaccine uptake would be a nominal binary variable, because the answer would be yes or no in terms of whether that person got the vaccine or not. And so for that, I would probably propose a logistic regression. Keep in mind that some of the tests you can't control for potential confounders, right? So I would encourage all of you to think about proposing some sort of multivariate analysis, because if you don't propose a multivariate analysis, then you're not going to be able to include control variables in your analysis. And then by Sunday, you need to reply to a classmate's post. I want you to review their hypothesis or hypotheses and their proposed statistical analysis and provide specific feedback with at least one suggestion for them. So maybe there's something that they should consider before they run their analysis. Maybe they proposed a specific statistical test, but you think that there's one that might be better. Or maybe they proposed certain control variables, but you think that there's something else that they should include. Your module this week is going to go over some statistical terms that you hopefully remember from your previous classes. It'll talk about levels of data. We'll go over descriptive statistics. This is a really helpful page right here, selecting a statistical technique. To cover bivariate analysis, we'll talk about multivariate analysis, and then we have a page on writing up the results of your analysis, which will actually be very helpful for your lab because you are going to practice with that. If you have any questions, please feel free to come to office hours or send me an email. Have a great week, everybody.